Hello, everybody, and welcome. I apologize for the slight delay there. We had a bit of an issue with going live, as uh, as as those things happen when you go live, right? We're not pre-recording this; we are 100% going live, and so for that very reason, um, sometimes you have issues. That's just how it goes. But without any further ado, welcome to everybody. I'm going to bring on my co-host today. I'm sure you guys have seen his pictures in the group. I'm sure you guys have been blown away by his pictures in the group. We'll visit some of his pictures as well. But Greg Shaw, please welcome Greg Shaw. Greg, how you doing, buddy?
Good, good. Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Absolutely, man. We see your pictures all the time, but people don't always see your face, and it's one of those funny things, right? My face is on here all the time, and people get sick of it, but people see people see your creativity all the time and never see your face and never see who you are. So I thought it would be cool to have you on here, and
Well, thank you. Oh, it's
yeah.
it's it's very kind. Yeah, I mean, I hope people like it, and it's not an absolute spam job. So,
Do you now? I got to ask you this because we'll get deeper into sort of your photography and stuff like that in a minute. But I always have imposter syndrome because I'm just a guy hanging out at my house that sort of throws these videos up or throws these different things up, and I'm the same as everybody else, but I end up sort of bumping into photographers, whether it's Trevor, that we had on, or whether it's you or something like that. Like I'm not a creative type.
mm.
Um, but I'm sure you interact with other photographers. Do you get that? Do you have that imposter syndrome thing, like where you're having a conversation with somebody and you're like, man, I feel I'm way out of my league. Why? Like,
Well, yeah. I mean, when it comes to okay, no, number one, you are creative because it takes creativity to put these streams together and to keep them rolling. So yeah, so don't sell yourself short there. So definitely. But yeah, I mean, especially with Mythic Legions, because it's creative top to bottom, right? It's creative, like it's the whole concept of the line is basically the Lego of action figures. You create it, you break it apart, you
for
they
sure.
don't hang any hard fiction on it. So from backstory to look to design, and then when you start to get into the photography side, absolutely. I mean, you have these people who have picked it up, like people like like Trevor, like the Indonesian crowd. For those of you who don't know, the photography in Indonesia is huge, so you have a whole crew there who just do incredible stuff. And man, like you're looking at these shots and they're inspiring you, and they're also sort of scaring you and giving you imposter syndrome, to the nth degree, right? So, but the nice part is that like the rest of the community, from the collecting side to the customizing side, even to Four Horsemen, everyone is all about sharing. Share your own work, share your techniques, and share the good vibes for the most part. And that is really what makes the community amazing. And we can get more into it later, but that's where it dovetails the photography community and the Mythic Legion community. It's like the perfect handshake, right? Because like both of those things are paramount in them. So yeah, but no, there. In answer to your question, yeah, I mean it's a long road and it's a constant road. And even Trevor, you asked Trevor, like, here's a guy he's been on like CNN, he's been done stuff for Disney, like his resume is endless. Um, but he still says it's still the grind. There's always the other guy. There's the guy you look at, you go, how did he do that, right?
Yeah.
And then so it's yeah, no matter how high you get, the Olympus is always a little in the mist, so you just keep on climbing. So
Yeah. Well, that's, we did the interview with Trevor, and even sort of after the fact, he stayed on and we chatted with him for a while. And we did go into that a little bit, where
Yeah.
there's always somebody coming up. There's always somebody that sort of shoots something from a different angle or with a different effect, and you kind of go like, how did he do that? Like, where did that come from? Like,
Yep.
there's always something new. There's always something different, and it's fascinating to see. Um, thank you for sort of what you said about doing this, but to be honest, I just throw it up there and hope that people like it. I'm not
Well,
doing
how
anything
is that any
crazy with.
different from what I do?
Wow,
It's
well,
not. It's
maybe,
the
right? I
same.
guess that's the thing, is that we all have different avenues, and we all have
Yeah.
different mediums that we're sort of working in. And for me,
Yeah.
um, talking about it and just sort of like chatting about it, and creating dialogue and creating that back and forth. Maybe that's sort of the, uh, you know, for me that's easy, but maybe for other people it's not as easy to create that dialogue. So yeah, maybe that is. I've never thought of it that way, but maybe
And
maybe that is something. So
and I also think too, like, and that's another very critical part to like this community and any other community, is that if you don't have people like you that provide the connective tissue for all these different muscles throughout the group, really you don't end up with like a corporeal whole, right? You don't end up
right,
with something that really works well together. So it's all those parts, but it's like, again, like, okay, let's just say you were throwing out videos and no one was doing anything. Who cares? If I was just taking pictures in the void and posting them and no one was looking at them, who cares? If
yes,
Ryan was like banging together these awesome customs and keeping them to himself, who cares? But
yes.
when you start to get these things together, well, that's when the magic happens. So,
And you're right. I mean, maybe not everybody's following you on Instagram, but I mean, I've posted, your picture as the background, and so there's sort of that crossover, and eh, I think it's one of those things too, where maybe like everybody that works in sort of a different medium or a different format looks
yep,
at other formats and mediums and kind of goes like, how do they do that? Like,
yep,
we all gravitate to things that make sense to us, that are practical for us, that are maybe easier for us,
yep,
and then we all come together. And you're absolutely right. And Mike from Me Collectibles mentions there too, definitely the most wholesome and positive collecting community out there. I think
definitely.
Mythic Legions, there's always going to be people that have differing opinions, but I think by and
Yep,
large, yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike, that there's not another community out there that's as kind of in sync in a way. Like,
yep,
there's we're all positive for the most part, and when there's sort of people that have differing opinions, even those people are generally able to come together and sort of chat. But
yep.
anyway, couple of news things this week. We'll do news, then we'll do show and tell, then we'll kind of get into a little bit of a topic. I've already forgotten what the topic was because we've already gotten off course, as I told
Pop
you,
and
Greg,
swap.
that we would for sure. Anyway, All Stars 5 is still sort of going strong. The first round of voting ends Wednesday, and then I guess they're going to tally the votes, and then the second round, and arguably the more exciting or the more important round starts the following Wednesday. Um, we've been in the group, we've been doing the polls to sort of see what people like. The format people didn't love. This was my first All Stars. Greg, was this your first All Star? You've been doing Legions for a while, so I
Third.
assume that's
The
your
only one I
third.
missed was the first. Yeah. But no,
Okay.
it's my third. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
did you think of the format?
Um, it's actually, it kind of makes sense. If from the previous ones, with it being basically like a tennis round robin, right? Um, do like, I mean, I being like a fellow English major, stats are not my strong point. But yeah, my understanding though is that the mechanics of how the votes are tabulated. They're not just raw votes. It's not just like,
Right.
this gets so many, this gets number two, this gets number three. It just doesn't work that way. So by grouping like this, apparently it gives a truer indication of what the intent of the voters are.
Hmm.
That's one thing. And then the other thing that's been discussed in the forums, they group them by, I think you were bringing this up. You sort of did a bit of a deep dive, like by body type, by, different things that brought them together. So you weren't forced to sort of like
Yeah.
choose stuff that was going to heavily weight everything for a 1.0
Yeah.
round or whatever. So I think it kind of like it. The base is like, it's not, nothing's going to please everybody. So give this a shot. If it works out great, well, carry it forward. If it doesn't, there's always All Star 6. This is 5, 6. Yeah,
7,
whatever.
8, 9.
7,
They're
8,
going to keep
whatever.
doing
Yeah,
them. I mean, I don't
yeah,
foresee them not doing this every year.
yeah,
I'm new, but I mean, I was racking my brain trying to think of a brand that sort of did anything that's even anywhere similar to this. And the closest that I could get to this was like Marvel Legends does like the retro wave stuff. Black Series does I think they call it the archive collection,
yep,
but they essentially pick figures that they want to do. They're like, think of the voting process, whatever you want, but Four Horsemen is trying to involve the fans and
yep.
trying to incorporate sort of a process by which the collectors are allowed to chime in, and nobody else is doing that.
No, and and two, they've also sort of like they've accelerated the frequency of the All Stars because they see in the aftermarket what's, and we'll get into this probably later about pricing and that. So it's a way to relieve some of that pressure, take some of the steam out of the steamroller
Yeah.
of of these exponential uh, valuations. So yeah, so I think, like, again, like Four Horsemen, they do so much for the community. And again, some people will find issues with it, and why do they do this, why do that. They could do nothing, but they don't. They try. And I can't really think of another manufacturer that even goes to a quarter of the length that they go to.
And it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Yes.
Like there's always going to be
Yeah.
somebody that doesn't like the format or doesn't like the selection of figures or doesn't like whatever. But if they
Eddie.
didn't do the All Stars, people
Yeah.
would be like, why aren't they doing the All Stars anymore? Like, Four Horsemen is not doing what they used to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's always going to be somebody that's going to complain. That's just the nature of I think people. Um, and I don't think it reflects on them. Um, you gave me more credit than I deserve. I didn't do a deep dive. There was Four Horsemen actually at Four Horsemen o'clock. Jeremy Gerard said they lumped them into heroes,
Wow.
1.0 villains,
Gotcha.
and then sort of newer 2.0 figures. That was
Right.
I take no credit for
Right.
that whatsoever.
Right.
I was just paying attention when Four Horsemen said that.
See that now,
um,
the fact that I didn't sort of know the full details of that sort of reveals a dirty little secret, is that I don't really follow All Stars too closely. It's because I've been in the line for a while. Most of the stuff I wanted, I kind of have, and the new stuff is just so cool. Like, I'm obsessed with the new stuff, right?
yeah.
So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, and that's I for better or worse, a few days before All Stars voting started, I replied or I commented on a post. Maybe I shouldn't have. And kind of opened a can of worms with a couple guys in the cabal, and it was a funny thing because as a new collector, I'm looking at all the figures equally. I'm not looking at the dollar value connected to them.
Yeah.
I'm somebody that I collect figures because I like them. I like the sculpts, I like the designs, I like the bio, whatever reason it is that I want a figure.
Yeah.
Um, and then when I sort of decide that I want a figure and it turns out it's $300, I kind of go, yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Um, but I still want that figure. So I you know, we
Totally.
kind of got into this back and forth of like, is a figure more valuable because it's something that I want in my collection, or is a figure more desirable because the dollar value is higher?
Yes.
And you're saying, like the new figures look so cool, and I'm looking at the Alithia wave, I'm looking at the Poxus wave, I'm looking at the figures that are sort of still to be released,
Yep.
Pre-orders and such, and I'm thinking to myself, man, these are the best figures they've ever done.
They are.
um
Oh, they're incredible.
and I'm thinking like, I'm looking at some of the $300 figures, and I'm like, so they're just $300 because they're old, but they're not that great. And I would much rather have something like we've seen with, the Gorgo and
Yes.
like the two pack of the 2.0 figures, right? I'm looking at 2.0, like the version 2 figures,
Yep.
and I'm thinking, why would anybody want version 1 of Otho
No.
if version 2 of Otho,
Yeah.
is essentially the same head, but with a way more badass figure?
Yep.
To me, it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
I want
Yep.
Otho because I think he's a cool-looking character, and I read the comic book, and I read the bio and on and on. One of the best warriors in Mythos, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, damn, that's a cool character. I want that.
Yeah.
And somebody goes, hold up, that's a $500 action figure, and I go,
Yeah.
I don't want him $500,
Yeah.
but I'll go for a version 2.
Yeah.
For in a 2-pack with whoever else, for
Yep.
significantly less.
Yep.
And again, the price versus the value,
Mm-hmm.
being new to the line, I don't care what the price is. The value to me is in characters that I want, figures that I want.
Yeah. And I mean, like when I look at objectively back at some of these things, and I just, I'm not a customizer, but I not really, but I look at them for how they may have a very unique look, right? Obviously, Magnus, beautiful beard, big guy, looks really amazing. Um, Otho, for the most part, for me, like again, he's a grail that I'll never have the 1.0, which I'm perfectly fine with. Horseman keeps saying they're doing an updated version, which I can't wait for. But part of the reason, like him, like Gadriel, like the Seraph, right, and stuff like
Yep.
this. The other, like, she's the Queen Ursa, I can't remember. She's like the voodoo kind of queen and stuff. Um, the thing,
Hera.
yes, that's it. But yeah, like them, I really like because they're unique, but also they're people of color within the
Yep.
line, which I really love to have because it makes it so much more real. Like it's so much more reflective of like an actual world, right? And like those are like I gravitate towards those. And like there's a couple people sort of a darker complexion in the is it Alithia? Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
And then for Poxus, of course, there's the one wizard and stuff. And again, like I just like when I look at them just from a photographer's point of view, I'd like the toys to reflect the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So when I can get that with everything, with ethnicity, but also look, gender, body size, everything, I'm like, that's great. That's the stuff that I really enjoy. So again, I think that for Otho, that's part of the reason why he's kind of up there for a lot of people because he's very unique to this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he won't be unique in that way going forward. So,
Well, and yeah, I mean, you met
Calvis too.
like,
Yes, thank you, Charlie. Yeah,
Clavius. Yeah, Charlie loves
Clavius. Yeah.
Clavius, so that's
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have Lord Bardrick is the elf,
Yeah.
darker
Yeah.
complexion elf.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, in the Poxus wave, we have there's actually 2. Zende is
Yep.
the from the foreign lands. They don't really say where he's from, but he has a darker complexion.
Yeah.
But Samir, Scroll Warder, the main sort of wizard, I guess, in that
Yep.
Poxus wave, they've actually said that he also has a darker complexion. It doesn't come through in the pictures,
Right.
but they've said he has sort of like an Indian complexion. So it's a little darker, but it's not as dark as some of the darker figures.
Right.
So I but yeah, I mean, I absolutely love the variety, the sort of that there are different sort of skin tones. You know,
Yeah,
if you're right. If they were all the same, it wouldn't be as fun.
yeah,
It wouldn't be as dynamic. It wouldn't feel as realistic.
yeah,
You know, if every skin tone was the same skin tone, you're absolutely right that there would be something off, and there would be a demand for it.
yeah,
It's interesting that the Four Horsemen, you know, Otho's Wave One, like 1.0
yeah,
OG, they
yeah,
were already doing it long before it was, you know, a thing that people demanded.
yeah, yeah.
And you got to give them a lot of credit for that, for sure.
Totally. Yeah.
E-collectibles, is there a way to share this link to non-Facebook users? Asking for a friend. Oh, he says asking for a friend. Um, it should be on YouTube. Is it not on YouTube? I don't know how to. It should be live on YouTube. I don't know how you'd maybe look it up by title.
I
I don't know.
I did a search just for Knights of the North on YouTube just while we were in the green room and stuff, or while I was in the green room, and
Yep.
I couldn't pull anything up, so I don't know what the
Okay.
account is.
Well, we're working on it. we're trying to figure it out. Growing pains, you know, like we don't. I'll be perfectly honest. We don't know what we're doing. We're just winging it and trying to make it work. I do know that it does show up later on you or on yeah, on YouTube.
Yes. Yep.
And I do know that we have had people comment from YouTube in the past. Now that being said, that was with the when we did the some previous videos through a different account. We just set up the Knights of the North YouTube channel. Um, I'll try to figure out a link, and if you guys want to jump over there and subscribe, maybe there's oh, there we go. Mike's figured it out. It's live
Oh,
on
great.
YouTube as well, so it's working. Feel free to what am I supposed to say? Feel free to like, subscribe, and whatever. I have a 6-year-old daughter who wants to get into like YouTube videos, and I think it's the weirdest thing that that's what a 6-year-old wants to do. So I've been sort of forced to figure this out. My wife is sort of supporting me figuring out YouTube for myself, so that we can, so that if we ever need to do videos with her, we'll have some idea what we're doing. It's just such a weird world to me, man. And yeah, Mike from E Collectibles has a different logo here than he does um, when he comments on YouTube. He has a different logo that pops up than it does on Facebook. So it's very different. But anyway, the other news, we're 27 minutes in. Normally the news should take 5 minutes, but hey, you know, we do things how they happen. We just let it flow. The other thing today. Test shots. Test shot sale on storehorseman.com. I don't get it, Greg. Test shots? What are your thoughts on test shots? What's the draw there?
You asking the crowd or me?
Both, because I
Both.
don't get it.
Yeah, test shots are weird. I know that Horsemen since the early days, since like the Birds, actually, they did test shots. And they had test shots for at the Birds, and then also for like the Egyptian stuff that they had.
The
Um,
Seventh Kingdom stuff.
yes, yeah. And they were like originally like way back. They were like prizes. They were stuff that they were raffles at like early conventions and all that kind of thing. But then yeah, then they eventually sort of made their way to these like in stock sales and whatever. Um, yeah, I mean like some people they it's just kind of their thing. But to me that sort of appeal is just it's entirely to the collector, that is looking at something
Yeah,
like the completist,
yeah.
particularly, is who it kind of goes towards. So yeah, I mean, again, hey, if it floats your boat, go for it, man. It's awesome. But I mean, it also does carry, it carries sort of a slight whiff of, fear of missing out. And if there's anything, because there's some of these, they only make 20 or 30 of them, right?
Yes.
As they're working out the deep cuts and that, they're working out the joints and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, they're not my thing. But some people, they some people I know in the cabal, they exclusively collect that. They actually don't collect the main line. They just are after the S shots.
Wow.
And I'll admit, when they're in a D12 with some backlight, they look pretty cool all together. It's kind
Right.
of neat.
Right.
But yeah. I mean, I see them more as a very niche part of an already niche community.
Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, um, yeah, I mean, I get it insofar as like insofar as like you have a passion for the brand, and if you're somebody that sort of likes the behind the curtain, like how does it work, the inside baseball stuff, right? Like
Yep.
what's inside the sausage casing type stuff. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's whatever sort of like turn of phrase you sort of like to use there. And admittedly, I do have on the sprue, not an original, but I have on like a snake eyes on the sprue.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'll take a picture and I'll post that in the comments once we're done, because it looks really cool. But to me, on the sprue looks really cool, and then when it's put together, it kind of loses that luster a little bit.
Right. Now, is that from the classified or from the real American Hero stuff way back?
No, it's a third party. Like it's a red. I think it's a red laser.
Oh,
So there's a
okay.
guy in the States that's still making like O-ring
Right.
GI Joes.
Right.
He just basically takes the old figures and molds them, and then sends those measurements and everything to Asia, and somebody makes them. And
Right.
this is just one of those um, figures, and I put it in a frame and put it on my wall, and it's more like just because it's cool. And I get the people that sort of like the test shots as sort of
Yep.
part of the process of like how a toy is made.
Yep.
But to me, it's like at that point, it's kind of made. Um, it's
Yeah.
it's fully assembled and everything like that. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I was on there, first thing this morning for me on the West Coast, 8 a.m.
Yeah.
I was on, I logged in, I was ready. I thought, if something catches my eye, I think they were going for like $60 to $100, depending on, is it US,
I think so.
depending on which one they were.
Yep.
And to me, like, that's not an outrageous price for what they are.
Yep.
It's almost in a way like a historical artifact,
Yep.
if you
Yep.
will. Um, but ultimately, I kind of went, there's about 3 or 4 different figures that I would get a test shot for, but it's none of these.
Yeah.
And I would much rather buy 2 painted figures than one of these.
Yeah.
That was kind of how I looked at it, and that's kind of how I sort of placed it in terms of the value proposition there.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
they do look cool, and like you said, when you get sort of a bunch of them on the shelf, I did notice in the Cabal there was somebody selling off a whole bunch of test shots, and he had
Hmm.
a whole shelf full of them, and it did really look cool as a collection.
Yeah.
And I think if there's a character that you absolutely love,
Yep.
then you can kind of justify it. You kind of get behind that. I think Bishop picked up one of the. I know that Bishop loves orcs, and Bishop
Yep.
picked up a Vorthog test shot. So good for him. And I mean, anybody that got one, they were sold out in like 3 minutes. I think. Like I was there right at the beginning, and they were all available, but I didn't try to
Yeah.
buy one. So I don't. I mean, I could have got cart jacked if I tried to
Yeah.
buy one anyway. Um, but there were people
just
that got them, and
just out of curiosity,
yeah,
have you done a stream since there has been an in-stock sale?
no.
Because no, okay. So, but you've been
No,
around
the
since.
river of tears will flow.
Yeah.
live
Yeah,
on video when
yeah.
next in stock happens. No, I
Because
think the
like,
next in stock is like All Stars 4 in stock sale, which is what they announced
yeah,
sort of right after everything. The
that'll
in
be
stock
pretty
sale.
mild. Yeah, yeah,
Uh, Look, I bought a few of the reinforcements from the
mhm,
reinforcement wave when that went up, and it lasted longer than I thought.
yep,
I'd heard all about the in stock sales. I knew that you had like minutes, and you get
yep,
in, you get what you want, you get out.
yep,
I was kind of hoping for that with the reinforcements wave. I was
yep,
hoping that I'd go on there and I'd look at a couple things. I'd put a couple things in my cart and I'd refresh, and then everything would be sold out, and
yep.
I wouldn't be tempted. I ended up getting I think 7 figures
Oh wow.
in that.
Yeah.
Um, I now like reflecting now, I probably would have gotten more at the time of the reinforcements wave, which was um what was it, sometime in January, I think. But anyway, at that time I literally had no legions in hand,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was kind of apprehensive to go with 12 of a figure,
Yeah.
not knowing whether or not I would like them. And then in the meantime, I got my first shipment from Mike at E-Collectibles, and then it
Yeah.
was like it was done. That was the
Yeah.
end. I got a couple in hand, and I was like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
I should have got more. I should have got multiples of the ones that I did get. I should have got the ones that I didn't get, and on and on and on. So I'm still hoping that he's gonna get them, and so I'm talking to him daily, kind of like, did you get any confirmation about that? Um, and I mean, I got all my pre-orders in. I got my pre-orders for Alithia. I got my pre-orders for Poxus. I got all my pre-orders for War of the Aether Blade. Those deluxe elf and orc packs look so good, and they're gonna
Yeah.
be so great for um I do kit bash stuff with GI Joe Classified, and so the kit bash stuff for me, like how easy it is. People are like, "Oh, the 2.0 bodies are so hard to kit bash," and I'm like,
Yeah.
compared to what?
Not
One
compared to
1.0
the other
bodies?
stuff.
They're
No.
still easy. But we'll get there because we're going to talk about the contest that Trevor's running in the Cabal in a bit. But yeah, test shots are cool. I mean, congratulations to anybody that got one. Um, Good on you if what you're into is plain gray figures, but ultimately, like I just rather have painted figures.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's like
there
in
were
the chat here. I think it was it Austin? Yeah, I think it was
that comment
Austin.
there
Austin was saying that as
as a
like a photographer,
photographer.
same thing too. It's like it's not.
Yeah,
It's just the attraction's not there for it, and as a customizer too, probably not either because you
Charlie
sure you
said,
may
yeah.
use some black parts, gray black parts, but it's better to have the paint. So
Yeah, Charlie says, it might be blasphemous, but he'd paint the test shots. And I
yeah,
saw a lot of people say that, and then a lot of people were like, "Why wouldn't you just buy the regular figure for half the price,
yeah,
customize that one?" I guess you're kind of thinking like you have a blank slate, your blank template or whatever. But to be honest, it's pretty easy to paint over a
yeah.
lot of the colors that they do.
and it's also it's like what Jim has said in here too, that it's really it's a time where you're thankfully you're a casual collector because you don't come away with your teeth ground down to the nub right after these things. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and Jim says too, cheaper to buy a regular figure and a can of gray spray paint. I mean,
yeah,
you could mock up a test shot if you
yeah,
really wanted to, and
or just pop
and
it in some dye and you're all set.
and from far away, would anybody know the difference? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I guess the paint apps, if you dye it, you'd still see some of that stuff come through. But if you spray paint it, you'd never
Yeah.
know. Kelly's ISS tears are flowing. Nature's healing.
I have to tell you, like, like doing a stream after an ISS, like that's the thing. Okay, the ISS, be quick because we're gonna move on. But every single one of these things I've seen, yeah, okay, they're a bloodletting. Everyone knows it. Everyone makes fun of it beforehand. You see Walter posting saying, get out your tourniquets. It's almost on, right? Like, but the thing that happens every single time, and there's always this sort of soul-searching question afterwards every single time, is like, should we keep doing these? Because the amount of like, it's butthurt. It's what it is.
Yeah.
It's
You're
like
you're setting
tidal
yourself up
waves
for
of it.
failure every time.
Oh, it's like post after post after post, and outrage and this and that and all this. Like, I feel so bad for Elliot and Walter, right? They've got to put on the hip boots and wade through all this stuff for, like, a good 2 weeks afterwards. So I'm like, oh, it's kind of like, there's was one time after one really bad one, and I think it was Siege of Bajormir or whatever, where,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
where
siege
the
wave.
Siege, yeah. If you went into the store and you didn't click recently added, you didn't see the new stuff.
Oh,
And it was, and so many, and myself included, I went in there, I'm like, there's nothing here. So many people missed out on that critical first, 5 minutes or whatever it is. And like, oh man, afterwards, like, I ended up muting the Cabal for about 4 or 5 days, because I'm like, it's too much. It's just too much.
it's
So
just the constant, and that's even today with the test shots, right? There was like
yeah,
so many posts, and there was even a post in the Cabal where somebody was like, "Hey, why did my post get taken down?" All I was saying was, "Please don't post. I didn't get a test shot post." I
yeah,
felt so bad for Walter. Like, I'm an admin in a couple groups, and to be
yeah,
honest, like, the hardest thing is to try to explain to somebody why one post got taken down, another post didn't, and it's like,
yes, yeah,
well, I mean, there's a gray area for so much of that stuff, and I, I I felt for Walter because I was like, yeah, you took down the post that was basically like, gaslighting people and kind of egging people
yeah,
on, and
yeah,
it was like, I get why he took that one down, but didn't take the, like, I
yeah,
didn't get a test shot post, because like people want to vent. You got to allow for that a little bit.
yeah.
Um, I don't know, man. It's tough, and that's a whole different conversation. But
Oh yeah, it's gonna be
um,
fun. The first night's the North Stream after the first night. It's gonna be a
oh,
blast.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm so excited for it because I mean, there's people commenting here too. Like, Jim said it's nice being a casual collector and never worrying about an ISS. Austin said, like, problem for ISS is shipping and duties. You get a couple figures and you get out, and they hit your doorstep, and it's $200 for two
Yeah,
figures that you can get from Mike for $120,
yeah,
and you're like, and that FOMO thing is so real, right? Like,
yeah,
that you've got 5 minutes or less. You got
yep,
to get in, you got to place an order, you got to get out, you got to hope that you get the email that confirms that you actually got the order.
yeah.
Um,
And
and
and also for us, for Canucks, right?
yeah,
Like, for the Americans, okay, like, they put into go in the cart, go back out, put into go in the cart, go, because the shipping's only like $7 and there's
yeah.
no
If
duties.
it's
But for
$10
us,
every time.
yeah, you can't do it. Yeah,
Well, I mean, that came up in Nights in the North today, where somebody said, the AS4 in stock sales coming up, or yeah, AS4 in stock sales coming up. I think it was Bishop that posted it, and he said, like, I don't, but is it worth it to do an in stock sale, because the figures look cheaper, when you take the US dollar price and you kind of convert it to Canadian dollars, the price looks
yeah,
cheaper, but then you pay shipping, and then
yeah,
it's sort of a crapshoot whether or not, you get a brokerage fee, and then it's duties and taxes and this, that,
yeah,
and the other thing, and it takes weeks or months or however long for the figures to show up. Or you fire Mike a message and you go, "Hey man, I need these two figures. You got them?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll ship them out, tomorrow." It's like,
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
so much easier.
Or even if he doesn't, I'm like, do I really need this old? Like, if it's something that's not going to come up anymore, do I really need this, or can I just look to see what Mike has on pre-order, put it on? I'm like, okay, great. I got to wait a little while, but it's going to come, and then when it comes, I got a note on the inside of my box. What more
Yeah,
do I want?
exactly. You get a handwritten note.
Yeah.
Now that being said, Chris is writing handwritten notes to some people. I didn't get one with my order, but
All right.
I've gotten a handwritten note with both of my orders from Mike. So, but I mean, yeah, that's the other thing too, is that like Mike still has All Stars 4 in stock at e-collectible. So if you're thinking about the AS4 in stock sale right now, let me let you in on a little secret. I can guarantee you'll get them if you just order them from Mike right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of bonkers.
Oh, by the way, just another like very small bit of news.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but Chris has had a health issue. So
Yeah.
there's a thread in the cabal where everyone is wishing him well. So folks are watching the chat. If you got a chance, pop over there and just wish him well because he's reading them all. Yeah, I don't think it's especially serious
He's
because
replying to most of them, so it can't
he's replying,
be.
yeah, but it sounds like it's not it's not just a stub toe or something. So if you have time, just drop him a note and wish him
Yes,
well if you're so inclined.
for sure. For sure. Yeah, I saw that too, and it was weird because they didn't say what was wrong. They just said get well soon, and it was kind
Yeah,
of like,
yeah.
oh, I, you know, it's one of those things where it's probably none of my business what's wrong, but I do want to know if I'm wishing him well. But that's, but you're absolutely right. I mean, pop in there, pop in the cabal. If you're not in the cabal, by all means, get in there. I know that like Broseph Mandibulis, who was kind enough to hook me up with my Thistlethorn, he just joined the cabal the other day, and he commented or posted on something. He's like, "Hi, I'm new to the cabal," and I was like, "What? Like, how is that possible?"
Especially when you have a name that cool.
Yeah, he said that he tried to get in before, but he got declined, and he said maybe it was because like a fake name, right? Because he wasn't his real name, so I don't know.
Maybe,
Who knows?
yeah.
But Austin says the hate the FOMO feel. The amount of stuff I've bought and questioned why at a later time. Yes. And they do it so well, right? Like when figures are sold out within 5 minutes, it's kind of genius on their part because it's a quick hit. They're in, they're out, and they ship everything within the next couple weeks, and everybody moves on and waits with bated breath for the next in stock sale or the next test shot sale or the next whatever it is. So
yeah,
it's funny. Kelly makes a good point though too. Every online retailer still has lots of AS4, so unsure how people have missed out. Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm like I said, I'm relatively new. I've never had an in-stock sale, so I guess the pricing is the draw there.
mm-hmm.
It's like you said, for American customers, it's probably great. For us,
Yeah.
I just don't think it's that worth it. I bought some
Yeah.
reinforcements because Mike, I'd been chatting with Mike and I basically said, "Are you getting these right away?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to grab a couple." Partly it was for me to sort of experience what it is like to order from Four Horsemen. I wanted to know, like, how long does it take? What are the shipping charges? What's the duties? All that kind of stuff. Like, what's a landed figure going to cost me if I order it from them versus if I order it from you? And to be honest, like I think I paid landed. They were about they were basically 50 some odd dollars for what was a $25 figure, right? So
right.
At the end of the day, like I look at that and I go, okay, well the deluxe Legion builders from Mike are $55.
Yeah.
And these things cost me $50?
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't add up.
Yeah, no.
I hope he gets them because I bet I can get them from him for less than I paid Four Horsemen to get them. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Just quickly trying to catch up on the comments here, and then we will jump into show and tell, or you can jump into show and tell. Have you got anything? You get anything cool in the night? Since you've been on?
Mythic Legions.
whatever. What do you got?
Oriented.
You got some cool stuff?
Yeah, Mythic Legions oriented, not too much. Right now, like I mean, I don't know if people know we're Iqbal, who runs the Indonesian sort of oriented collabs for different photographies. He does the Myth and Fantasy Toy Pick, which does exclusively Mythic Legions. So that's like a weekly thing, which about 15 of us all do. And in the past, what we've done is everyone's just sort of come up with their own scene and posted and gone here. At the end of last year, he came to me and said, you know, I'm thinking about trying to actually do a narrative, do a story for the whole year. He said, I have an idea, but do you have any sort of input and to this? I said, well, if you like, he said, I can flesh it out for you. He said, I'm a writer, so I can do that for a living, so I can try to sort of like spell it out. So anyway, we put this thing together. I broke it down into 12 chapters, each month being a chapter. And then everyone in the collaboration, they sort of tell their own story, hanging it on this very loose frame. So one of my things has been actually using Heaven's Brand as like the hero in exile, I guess. So
Your toy room is much bigger than mine.
oh,
You took far more steps to get to that shelf than I would have to take to any of the shelves in my room.
well, remember, I think I was telling you before, like, let's see, that is Lego,
Yeah,
top to bottom,
yeah.
and
We'll get into that. We'll get through news and show and tell, and then yeah, I got some questions.
So yeah, that's one show and tell. But anyway, so what? So yeah, so I guess I got a Black Tom Marvel Legends, and he sort of looks reasonably like Heaven's Brand,
yeah,
without the helmet.
For sure.
So yeah, so I mean, like I said, I don't do a lot of customizing. I bought like a ton of stuff from like Planetary Dog Toys and my action figure, my
action figure customs.
Yes. And it's all sitting beautifully in a box. I haven't done anything yet. But
now, do you go for the painted stuff or do you go for the unpainted stuff?
Unpainted, because I'm actually a scale modeler too, and dial builder and stuff. And I'm also like I also like an artist, like whatever. Like I like sketch and draw and paint and all that kind of stuff. So the painting actually I do enjoy a lot. But it's actually just time, because the photography takes a lot of time. And it's a lot of practice and everything else. So yeah, so all that stuff sort of like, that, the Lego, everything else, it's kind of like taking a back seat.
For sure.
So, but anyway, yeah, that's for showing, that's sort of all sort of Mythic Legions at the moment.
Well, I'll do mine very quickly because we're already, I mean, time flies when you're having fun, right? We're 53 minutes in and we haven't gotten anywhere. But I like, honestly, I got a lot of questions that I want to ask you, Greg, because I've never had you on here. We've chatted a bit. And so I knew that you were a Lego guy, and I know that you're into photography. So I'm going to show your pictures, and then I'm going to ask you questions about how Lego kind of comes into it and all that kind of stuff. I just want to show off a few figures that I got because I'm super excited, but I'll do it super quick. So maybe the oddball one that I got this week. I don't know if any of you guys noticed, but there was a post in the Cabal late one night a couple weeks ago, and some maybe more obscure, maybe more, I don't know if they're more rare. I don't know. I'm new. I don't really get it. I don't know like what's new, what's rare. I grabbed a couple of these, and now they're not Mythic Legions, but they are 4 Horsemen.
Right.
So these are two Seventh Kingdom female cat figures,
Right.
and I actually bought these from Corn Boy of all people, Eric Corn Boy of
Really?
Four Horsemen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so I've been chatting with him a little bit, and yeah, absolutely, Austin. Seventh Kingdom kitties. We are, we sort of teased that we're sort of reaching out to more of the Four Horsemen guys, and he's on our list for somebody that we want to land. So, I I I bought them for two reasons. One, I wanted them for my
Mm.
kids, which might be sort of wild for people to think that I bought, old, out of date, relatively hard to find Four Horsemen figures for my kids to play with. But also so that I could start a conversation with Corn Boy. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The other thing that I grabbed, Jim says, be careful. The joints can be very fragile. They're super loose. I mean, one of the tails was broken. I had to glue it back on. I didn't pay a crazy amount, so they are what they are. To me, they're toys. To me, they're not collectibles. To me, their value is in how much fun my kids and I are going to have with them. They may be, that tail might get broken again tomorrow. I'm not making any promises one way or the other. But the other pickup that I got this week was a Faunus.
Oh, Faunus. So great. He's like one of my favorites.
He's
I love him so much. He's
he's
awesome.
heavier than I thought he was gonna
Yeah, yeah.
be. Like compared, like I messaged that to somebody else, and they were like, "What do you mean heavier?" And I was like, "He's just heavy. Like he weighs more than."
I think between the branch horns and the hooves and
Yes,
and the full tabard, like he weighs a lot.
the head is there's more going on there than I
Yeah.
anticipated. There's the hooves.
Yeah.
He's a full night body.
Yep.
So there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of plastic going on there. And he just looks badass. And
Oh,
I
he's
love
so
Xylonis
cool.
Flock. I'm sort of
Yeah.
unapologetically a Xylonis Flockophile. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
a thing, but he comes with cool accessories too. He comes with the big sword. He comes with the dagger and the sheath, which you don't see with a lot of figures. He gets the mage, the
Yep.
sort of mage staff that Bryophytus comes with. He's got the bronze and metallic green shield, which I think looks fantastic. I keep saying this, and part of the reason that I love Xylonis Flock is the color palette.
Yep.
The metallic greens, the coppers, the bronze, the orange. They just look so cool.
Yep.
And to me, they're more fun on the shelf than some of the other factions and such. But everybody's different, If you like skeletons, bless your heart. I don't get it.
I think that it's maybe if it's Max Bird or JSP Lot has like a wired cape in that rusty color and stuff. I'm like, oh, like I've seen some pictures of it. It's so good. I'm like,
CJ has the Elf Ranger
yes,
with the gold trim.
yes.
But since I've been looking at CJ stuff, it's been sold out. So I'm
That's the thing. His stuff is gorgeous, but I can't get any of it. It's all like it's all behind the glass wall, right? I'm like, it's like a Christmas story. It's like the kids like this, like pressed up against it. I'm like, oh, yeah, it drives me crazy.
Austin said Faunus is the reason why I wouldn't be upset if Silverhorn Sentry won AS5. Having a few of those flanking him would be a cool display. Absolutely. And that's I'm the same way. Like Silverhorn Sentry is not at the top of my Xylonis Flock list. But as I've been sort of like checking off the other guys, Silverhorn Sentry's been moving up my list.
Yeah.
I got Thistlethorn, I got Lord Aiden. If Elf Ranger becomes a All Stars 5 option, I got Faunus. Like I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, oh wait, I think I might need a Silverhorn Sentry sooner rather than later. So I'm really kind of gunning for that to get in.
Like when I took a look at that, can you imagine if you put the head of the centaur on the sentry would look like I don't know if that centaur is that middle scale
No,
body
he's not.
type.
He's a
It's not.
1.0. No, it's
Yeah,
1.0.
that would look so good.
Oh no,
Oh,
the centaur. Yeah, sorry. No, the centaur is brute scale.
it is, eh?
Yeah.
Because the sculpt would look so good on that Silverhorn Sentry. Look,
Okay, let's go off on a tangent because I keep looking at that centaur and I keep thinking I don't need him as a centaur, but I really want him as a figure. That sculpt is fantastic. The problem is the brute scale only has that upper,
yeah,
and then the orc shaman and the genie. So we
yeah,
don't have a lower that really works for him yet.
yeah,
Do I buy the centaur and sort of hedge my bets that we get a lower that works for him? I don't know. But that's kind of the thing with these figures is that they're so customizable and there's just so much potential. Um, and they're clearly, they wouldn't come out with a new scale if they weren't going to back it up with more figures. And I think that's, it's one of those things where like I wouldn't buy that figure thinking like I really hope it's coming. I would buy that figure thinking like I wonder when it's coming.
yeah. And I mean, it will eventually. Something will come for that. But I can tell you, like for you being like a Xylonus flock kind of guy, get the centaur. The centaur is going to blow people away. Like it is going to be the rock star of that thing. I'm telling you now. Like it's so good. Like when you put that thing on your shelf and
Alder is going to be the showstopper.
yeah, no. The only
But
thing
I
is like
don't disagree with the centaur being the one that
but
everybody sleeps on, and then people go, "Oh, damn,
yeah,
that's that figure." Yeah,
but with the thing about the centaur that I think is going to get you is that when it's on the shelf, Alder certainly the 10-point spread on that thing is like massive, right? It's going to be a physically big place just on the shelf.
yeah,
But when you have the centaur there, he's got the height, but then coming up from that height, you have this extra large figure, extra large head.
yes,
The bigger that is, the more detail and the deeper cuts you can have in that
right,
thing. So now
right,
on the shelf, you have this thing which is essentially on its own built-in stand.
yes.
So you can put
That's
them.
absolutely true.
You can put them behind
Yes,
your guys who are lined up in front, and he's still going to be like there, right? It's like I think
I
that is like
yeah.
amazing.
I mean, I think he'll end up being taller than ogre scale,
Yeah, oh yeah, oh
because
yeah,
he's starting so much higher, right?
yeah,
He's starting as a taller figure.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Um, Mike, if you're still watching, I may need a centaur.
Yeah.
Damn it! I, I keep saying I'm not going all in on any of these waves. I'm still getting into this. He sent me a box. The last box he sent me, he goes, "Well, here's the rest of your All Stars 4. You now have all in on All Stars 4." I was like, "Oh shoot!" And then I keep adding items, like one item at a time, to all my
Yeah.
orders. And he keeps saying like, you're one item away, you're two items away, and I'm just like, don't tell me that.
Oh,
Just add them.
I
Don't tell
know,
me that. And then when it ships, you can write the little cute note or whatever. I
I
don't want to
know.
know that I'm that close to all ins on these waves.
Well, it's like I just keep going back to the well with him too, like for several different things, and for Mythic Legions the last time. I'm waiting on this Mezco Atticus Doom, paranormal investigator guy, right?
Yeah.
And in the mythos they have, he does a lot of vampire fighting. So I already had ordered one brute from either Mike or Direct here, but I'm like, oh, okay, so now I need at least one more brute and maybe the Baron. So it's like,
What's
yeah,
the
it's
harm
like
in one more? What's
I
the harm in
know.
one more?
I know.
And then it ships, and you go, I ordered all of these.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like I didn't order him or the ogre. Yeah, I didn't either. But I mean, there's still a while before they ship. So I'm not saying that I won't order. You know, I'm not at this point. I'm kind of like, well, I mean, if the order goes in before they ship, you know, who knows? Jim said I very nearly ordered the Centaur, if only to do a photo shoot
Yeah.
with a Deadpool riding him.
Yeah. If it
I
can't be a unicorn, it's a centaur. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, you're absolutely right, right? Like if it's not one, why not the other? I think I said this in a video, but I can't remember now. I saw Alder, and that was my sort of. I'd seen Mythic Legions before, and I'd almost pulled the trigger with a few different waves. I saw Alder. I messaged Mike and I said, how does this scale with classified figures, with GI Joe classified figures? And he said, well, I'm not entirely sure because I haven't seen it, but like they're both 6-inch scale. I said, I think I need one because I think I want to do a custom with a GI Joe classified Mountie on top of a moose. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get this Mythic Legions thing. And then I was like, well, I don't like having one of a brand on the shelf, let alone one that's a steed that doesn't have a rider. And then I was like, well, then I'll get a rider. And then I was like, well, is there another steed and another rider to kind of balance that if they're ever on the shelf together? And then it was like, oh boy, a troll. And then it was just like, forget it.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, yeah. Oh well, there goes collecting a bunch of other lines. Anyway, let's move on. I got one more thing. This is kind of a show and tell / I'm curious what people think. You know, I said to you, Greg, that we were going to talk about Lazy Boy Customs a little bit, and I've been sort of dabbling with them because I was doing it with classified figures and because it's so easy to do it with these guys. And then Trevor did his contest. I messaged Trevor and I said, hey man, you didn't say anything about countries. Are you can a Canadian enter?
Yeah.
And I genuinely think he hadn't even thought of that. He hadn't even thought of like, what if somebody enters from another country?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I guess so. He said, I guess we'll split the shipping, or like you'll have to pay the shipping. I said, let's worry about that like when you pick winners or whatever. I said, I just want to submit something and you know, just have some idea of whether or not, you know, there's any chance.
Yeah.
Because the prizes that he's offering are kind of crazy, really.
Yeah. They're great.
For a Lazy Boy custom where you're just popping and swapping and not really like you do it, you submit your thing, and then you can just convert your figure back. So there's absolutely no downside to entering the contest.
Yeah.
You could swap heads from one figure to another, submit that. Maybe the judges just like what you do, but I'll just mention this. Just whoever would have thought a moose could be a gateway drug. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Kelly says, I actually had no idea this was an actual contest. What are the prizes? Trevor keeps adding more prizes. It's through the Cabal. You do have to enter through the Cabal. So if you're not in the Cabal, by all means join, and you'll sort of see it. I did post essentially the rules for the contest in the group, so search that and you can find that. And then Trevor Williams is the guy that's essentially running the contest. But in a nutshell, the contest is submit one Lazy Boy custom. You get one submission per person, per account. So if you got a bunch of burner accounts, by all means, I guess submit as many as you want. But come up with your best, submit that, and they're going to go over them. They do their show, Legions Lounge. once every 2 weeks, I think, on
Yep.
Monday evenings.
Yep.
And it's a great watch. If you haven't watched their show, it's Trevor Williams, who is 1 6 Shooter on Instagram, great photographer. Nate, who is Corona4 on Instagram, also a fantastic photographer.
Excellent. Yeah. One of the best. Yeah.
Dork Lair.
Bill. Yeah.
Bill. Yeah, Bill. I'm not even gonna bother with his last name. But Bill from Dork Lair, and so it's very, very often those three guys, and they're sort of running a contest. The prizes
and
are crazy. You get like top prizes like 8 figures and a T-shirt and a like it's and that's top prize. I don't know what second or third or honorable mention or what, but
and the whole thing is actually it's kind of like coming off a lot of what Bill does. Bill does a
yes,
lot of pop and swap, and if you can, he runs his own stream too, Dork Lair. So if you can watch that and you can see he does like almost like a weekly pop and swap. So if you're interested, it'll give you a good indication as to what they're after.
yes, absolutely, yeah,
And the rules are only just that it has to be Mythic Legions, no extra paint, no extra materials. What comes in the box, any Mythic Legions box, even going back, I think he's even including Gothropolis and whatever.
yes.
But
Yeah,
that's it.
I think any 4 horseman figures. It's a maximum of 2 figures,
Yeah.
2 unique figures. You can add a third if it's from the reinforcements wave.
Yeah.
Is my understanding. But
Yep.
then you can add, like, if you have a hands pack, you could swap hands. You could add wings if you wanted. So like accessories is kind of a gray area. But anyway, what I wanted to share is I've got 2 options, and I wanted people to sort of chime in. Which one do you guys think is my better chance, or is my better creation? I'll start with the first one. So many people seem to go with 1.0 bodies. So I just kind of went with one that I thought was kind of cool. I've got a purple ore that I've put Sir Gerard feet, wrists, like the wrist gauntlets and the shoulders, a bunch of straps, a whole bunch of blades from the Orc Legion builders. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. He's kind of a master of blades. My kind of tagline for him is gonna be his claws are sharp, but his blades are sharper. And then my second one, which was okay, this may come as a surprise to you guys, but I love Thistlethorn. I just did I did like a version 2 Thistlethorn. And this was a little bit inspired. I don't know if you guys saw, somebody posted basically a Thistlethorn head on a goblin body, like the full black kit, and I thought it looked so badass. But I kind of like, I thought like, okay, well, what, Thistlethorn is a relic hunter, and he's got his greens and he's got his gold and he's got his brown. But if he's relic hunting, he might want to be a little bit sneakier, right? And he is a goblin after all, so he's going to be familiar with sort of goblin-y garb. So I did sort of a goblin garbed Thistlethorn, where he's got a lot of thump body. He's got a couple components from the Goblin Legion builder, but then I kept the green shins, the green gauntlets, the green pauldrons. He's got plenty of straps so that he can still sort of, when he finds his relics, he can kind of tuck them in and kind of get in, get out. He's a little bit sneakier in his stealthy garb. But
that's awesome.
They're fun, man. It's just fun to do that.
I think, is like personally, because Thistlethorn is one of my like top 3 figs.
So unique.
Yeah. I mean, I would like, if I look at both those, I'd want that one in my collection. But as far as like probably for wow factor, the purple ore is probably got it.
It's a tough call. I love all the furry guys, but I know that I'm in the minority. I think I look at all the people submitting, and there's skeletons and there's knights and there's anybody that has a Rhaegor head seems to have used a Rhaegor head.
yeah.
So it's just it's different tastes though, right? So if I had a Fury Orc, I probably would have submitted that because I know how much Trevor loves Fury Orcs right now.
Although he's not the only judge. It's a
Well, yeah,
panel.
I know. And I'm being facetious. Like it's,
Yeah, of
you know,
course.
ultimately, I think the fun of the contest, right? The fun of the contest for me is looking at what you've got and looking at what works and sort of,
Yeah.
you know, I've been a GI Joe guy for forever, and I just got into Mythic Legions recently. Part of the thing that I love about Mythic Legions, and I've said this to a bunch of people, for me, there's like such a cool balance between GI Joe and Mythic Legions because GI Joe has 40 years of stories and back history and lore, and it's hard to deviate from that. But with Mythic Legions, and I, you know, I posed this question in the poll. You know, where do you pull the backstories for your figures? Is it headcanon? Is it Four Horsemen? Is it a bit of both? Mythic Legion is such a blank slate. Like there's so much potential for customizing. There's so much potential for fan fiction. The photography, right? You can put together any 3 figures you want because there's not enough sort of rules. You know, the sandbox is huge for these guys. You can almost do anything you want. And I'm going to pull up a few of your pictures very quickly here because I have a whole bunch of them open, and we haven't even gotten there. But the ability to just sort of create stories and create the mythology on your own is just so much fun. And when you start putting these figures together, like, yeah, that's Purpleor's head and chest or whatever, but to me that's not Purpleor. That's a different character. That's Purpleor's, you know, second cousin or something like that. When I look at Thistledoor, partly because of the lore, because they said he's like one of the last few, I went back and forth, and I didn't want to create another Fuzz Goblin.
Yeah.
To me, Thistledoor is the only one we'll ever see.
Yeah.
So again, you could do it totally different. You could say that's Purpleor and that's a different Fuzz Goblin. I mean, that's the fun of it. That's the beauty.
Yeah.
That's why the line's so great. But there you go. Kelly says, I was going to do a skeleton, but chose a female dwarf just to switch things up. I think that's a great idea, Kelly. Like that.
Yeah.
Female
Absolutely.
dwarf is one of those things where, like, you know, there's that ongoing debate of like, should a female dwarf have a big beard and be like thick and burly? Should a female dwarf just be a female figure in that scale or whatever? But it again, how does it work on your shelf? How does it work in your collection?
And they made that one female dwarf who was teamed up with the Frost Elf. I can't remember their names, but I've shot them several times because they're great together. Like they're awesome. Yeah.
Jim says, every time I do a simple custom, I end up just not, and then suddenly I've spent a week on it. I've been going back and forth with these figures for days, and I've got, you can't see it because it's sort of on the other side of the camera. I've got a whole desk of figures and pieces because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do and like which figures, you know, which pieces would work better. And, you know, I was trying out, you know, different, the little, like this, like the little skirt piece, loin cloth piece, whatever it's called, like so many versions of that on both figures. You know, was I going to go with sort of the rusty thumb feet over the green feet with Thistlethorn? Like how does the balance work with color? Facebook user, who I can only assume is Jay, says Ragna. Yes, Ragna is the female dwarf.
That's it. And the Thalen Frostbow. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. The Frost Elf is Thalen Frostbow. Yeah, that a great figure. Again, as I'm sort of crossing figures off my list, there's so many good figures. And the problem is that there's so many good ones. Like, where do you, like, because I'm playing catch up and I'm paying late fees on all of them, which ones take top priority? But no, Austin said too, I'm doing something with Cowros. Not sure what though. Also, I vote for the Purpleor LBC as your submission. Yeah, the Calros is. I haven't seen any Calros ones, so that's. I've seen a few Purpler ones. So it's. Facebook user says, "Yep, Jay." Death Owl saying the audio has an echo. Uh-oh, I apologize for that. I don't know why. There's no echo on my end. Are you getting an echo there, Greg?
No, no.
Okay. I can't explain that. Anyway, Greg, um, did you where? How did you get into Legions?
Well, like most people, you sort of start off with very modest sort of aims. Like mine was like, okay, can I recreate my like D&D party from like 1983, right? Sort of like based on the old cartoon.
You were like 3 years old in 1983, or what? You're dating yourself a little bit there.
Yeah, man. This gray is earned, brother. Don't that'd be nice, but no. Um, but yeah, I mean, like back, back when that cartoon came out, like everyone was just all over it, and so yeah, so that's always kind of stuck in my mind. So I thought, okay, I'm just gonna get like the elf ranger, the barbarian builder. It's kind of the archetypes, right?
Yeah.
So I saw these, in some of the sort of like I wasn't really too much into figures. I stayed away from 6, 7 inch line for the longest time. I've got a whole basement of Joe stuff from like 83 to like 89, right? So I was sticking mostly with 4 inch and then thought, okay, I don't really want to get into the larger scales and that. Had no thoughts about photography at that time, but then I picked these things up and then once I picked them up and I found the Cabal, and the Cabal was small at that time, it was like 400 people, right? Like it wasn't big at all. And then, but some of the old timers, like, like Jeremy and Nikki and, Patrick and like, a bunch of these guys were there. And some of them were doing photography and Trevor's the first one who I found and stuff. And just, blown away. And I always did the Lego photography just to show off builds and some Photoshop and that. But then I just started doing the Mythic Legion stuff, and it did well in the forum. And then of course you get that, and then you're like, okay, well maybe there's some more. Now this is gonna kill you. I go to eBay. There's this guy out near you, actually, just one province west somewhere. I think he's in Victoria. And or UBC, you are in BEC, right,
Yep.
Adam? Yeah. So anyway, he was selling off his entire collection. Yeah, that is one of the first one.
That was the first one that I found. Was
Yeah.
the
Yeah, that's and it's got a Lego built chair throne.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, but yeah, this guy was selling off his collection for I think they were about $20 a piece Canadian. So like
Wait,
heavens,
what?
yeah,
What? $20
yeah,
per Legion? Per
per
Mythic
Legion,
Legions figure?
per Mythic Legion, and that wasn't a cheap price. All over eBay, you could get any of them. If you were to pay more than $40, it was unusual. So like I've got like almost like from Vorgus to Heaven's Brand, like all the classic stuff. Like I just kept on going back and more and more and more and more. And then he started throwing stuff in. He said, okay, well, yeah. So like I ended up with suddenly about like 15 of these sort of like wave one, wave two, wave three characters. And then yeah, that's where it started. Then after that, I was just in with all the waves. I never did the all ins, and I never really knew about that, so it was more Big Bad Toy Store. But yeah, then the collection just started going from there. Actually, I don't have a ton. I probably only have about maybe 30 or so.
So
But
have you
they're all the
gotten rid of
ones.
some then?
No, No, it's just that I actually cherry picked like
Okay.
every single wave.
Right.
And I wasn't after all of them. So maybe more, maybe 40. I think about maybe 40 now. And then the one thing that really blew me away was when I got the ice troll, and I was like, oh yeah, this
Right.
is it. I'm totally in. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I've kind of cherry picked a whole bunch of photos, specifically Mythic Legions ones. But you've got tons from different lines and stuff as well. But you've got trolls in a few, and that's, I mean, there's the ice troll there.
Yeah.
The you with a figure that has very little articulation, you manage to sort of put him in very dynamic poses. You've managed to kind of show him in his best light, I guess.
Yeah, he's there. It's kind of
Here's
funny
another
with
one.
those. It's
That's a stone
yes,
troll, I think, right?
yes, and that's mixing in with boss fight studios, and this is actually, I think this is my most successful picture to date between the different social
Oh,
media.
okay. So I picked a
And
good one.
yeah, this one did really really well, and
So
oddly enough, you know,
that's a boss fight elk, and the figures are boss fight as well. Is that right?
they are, yeah,
Okay.
and these the boss fight fantasy stuff is fantastic. Like it's really good, and it works so well with some of the Mythic Legions.
Hmm.
They pair excellent together. But but yeah, the with the trolls though, like their neutral pose has some sort of counterposto and movement to it, which kind of looks
Yeah.
nice. But like this guy here, yeah, he's basically off one foot, and his back foot is wired down and up, and you got to bend them, like you have to like basically tilt them, right?
Yeah.
To make them look like they're in motion. But again, just because of how the horsemen have sculpted their neutral positions, they put you about 50% of the way there.
Right.
So
Um, but you're, again, I'll share this one. Like you're certainly not shy to sort of mix your lines.
no,
That's some sort of werewolf from.
that is a toy. That's a Toy Biz Lord of the Rings warg. Um,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay, with an
yeah,
elf ranger on Balius, I believe.
yep, yep,
Okay.
yep.
And you managed. I was gonna say too that you managed to get sort of scale, like different scales, to work really well together as well.
Yeah, yeah. They like there's some of them which are, you know, you sort of, some of them are a little bit of forced perspective.
Hmm.
Some of them I try, like in the photography world, there's sort of two major camps. There's articulated comic book art, which is, you know, it's most well known by the Facebook group,
Yeah.
and it was started by guys who want what they call all practical. So
Yeah.
basically, everything is what it is. Like there's no Photoshop, you know, there's no merging of different images and all this. And for the longest time, they were very sort of strict gatekeepers on that stuff.
Hmm.
And then there was sort of everyone else who sort of did everything, you know, Photoshop, resizing, you know, that kind of thing. But the ACBA community's become a little more open. They've had more admins come on. Trevor's actually an admin there, in that too, I believe. But they've had people who come in who said, okay, you know, this is still our focus, is all practical, but we realize that there's value to people using things to assist um, their photos. That being said, in except for a few cases, I really try to not take an image of something, put it here. For instance, like to to put in the warg, and to keep it just as the native shot.
I mean, I love this shot though, because this is, I mean, this is clearly not practical.
No, no, this is Photoshop. And to tell you the truth, like Poxus has me so excited because I love magic in shots. Love it. And so to me, you can do magic with practical. Some people do it very well, but it's born for Photoshop because you
Yeah.
can just make it so fun. And this is where I said, okay, and this was for the Myth and Fantasy Toy Pick thing. So the theme here was basically that they're assembling the team of specialists to go find the exiled hero to bring back. So she's basically making a phone call. So she's found these guys using the spell to contact them, and that's what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I don't shy away from it. And I posted this to ACBA, and it did actually fairly well. So, you see people who they're willing to say, okay, it doesn't, so long as the image, like Ravina there, and everyone else is all practical. That cauldron is something I made out of just like, an old bottle or something, and then hot glue, and there's like these LED balloon lights below it.
Hmm.
And then tease up, you do the hot glue, tip it upside down, put in water so it makes the flames. So that's actually a practical effect.
Okay.
So I always, and you've probably seen this in the Joe stuff that I do. All my muzzle flashes, everything like that, they're always a practical effect that's lit up and then
Lit. Yeah.
enhanced in Photoshop. And this is the same thing.
Right. 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 I mean, they're all fantastic. I didn't show the Joe stuff. If we do one of these
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
Joe
no,
group,
don't
I'll
don't show
definitely
that.
be
That's a
showing
whole other
those.
thing. Yeah.
But you have, I was trying to find, like, the thing is, I'm sure they're in so many of these pictures, but I couldn't find it. Maybe it's more in the GI Joe stuff. Um, you do a lot of Lego. You get a lot of Lego in there as well. Were you into Lego before, or was like before you got into photography? Or I'm
Oh
I'm
yeah.
a massive Lego guy myself. It's not on this shelf behind me. When we were building this house, in the
Yeah.
blueprints for the house, this was the Lego room. That
Yep.
was what it was referred to for a long time. But other things sort of took over the shelves. What got you into Lego? Sort of how do you use it? As far as photography now, are you like me? Have you sort of moved away from it? It's gotten expensive, and it just seems like repeats of stuff.
Well, it's. I mean, the room here is exactly the same thing. Like, if I've always had a Lego room in all of the houses that we've had. Either it's corner of an unfinished basement or this. But when we did this house and we were redoing the basement or finishing the basement, I knew this was going to be wanted. And just a very sort of quick back tangent. When I was a kid, my dad took me to see a friend of his who was a very successful corporate lawyer. Like, this guy was one of the top guys. And we're over there for dinner. You're 10 years old, you're bored, whatever. He says to my dad and I, come on downstairs. Go downstairs. Go in there. He has this scale model workshop that's floor to ceiling with all kinds of models, battleships, planes, everything, cars, all this kind of stuff. First time I've ever seen an airbrush, right? He's got all that stuff, and I was just blown away. And then he gives me a model to take home and says, like, do you like models? Like, yeah, I've tried. He's like, here, take this and go home, right? And I remember looking around and I'm saying, like, wow, I said, you're an adult and you have all this stuff. And I remember him looking at me and saying, when you're an adult with responsibilities, you need all this stuff. So,
Oh,
and
okay.
from that time on, I knew one day one of those rooms is going to be mine.
Right.
And also, do not give up what makes you happy.
Right.
Don't worry, like, don't forget it. Just do what you got to do. So Lego's been a part of that all this time. I've since a kid all the way forward. Then, in my 20s or whatever, I found the online Lego community. and we started, we went to like some conventions. At that point, there was some forums that were big, so we were all building, and like these guys who build, like, who are friends of mine, these guys are geniuses. And that show, Lego Masters, like we know some of those guys. At one point, we knew a bunch of people on the design team for Lego and interacting with them. There's one thing that I built, which I got one of the guys at Lego to say, like you took that from me, right? It's inspired, right? And he's like, for legal reasons, I
Yeah.
can't say that. Fine, that's all I need to know, because I'm taking that as a yes. So I'm happy.
Maybe was his answer.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, so that's just sort of what it's like. The Lego is sort of it's kept my foot in like the toy world,
Yeah.
um, my whole life. And and I've met some lifelong friends who are really excellent people, and we've gone through so much together. And Lego has been the backdrop, like it's like divorces, sicknesses, parents passing away, and it's been like, again, I was talking earlier, the connective tissue that sort of kept us going. And that's a lot actually what all this is now, and the Mythic Legions community and stuff, man. Like, you read in the Cabal. I haven't seen it too much in our forum yet, but in the Cabal, a lot of people lean on other people when things are going badly.
Right. Yeah.
And they really credit them for the community for helping get through. And this is the one thing I always drive home to everyone. Community drives our passions here. It encourages us to share, to communicate, to have some laughs and all this kind of stuff. But the other side of it too is it allows us to weather the really difficult parts of life. And so long as you have that as sort of part of your, emotional shoring up, life is that little bit easier, and maybe you get through that day a little bit better. So that's what keeps me going and keeps me involved. It's definitely part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I didn't have, I didn't have somebody when I was a kid say like, you'll need this as an adult. I had a very long period where I didn't, I had sort of sold off all my collections and sold off all my toys thinking I'll never need when I was in my 20s, I'll never need these and I'll never want these. And they've been in bins and I've moved them from house to house to house. And then when my wife was pregnant with our first kid, was the first time I'd been in a Toys R Us in years. And the very first thing that I was like, man, I really want to get back into this, was Lego. I saw some Lego sets and I was like, man, they're doing some crazy stuff with these sets now.
Yeah.
And so then I bought a set, and then I kind of I had to go back for something else the next week, and I bought, another set. And then it was sort of every time I was at Toys R Us, I was buying another set.
Yeah.
And then because I was at Toys R Us, I was looking at other stuff, and then I got into Legends, and then Marvel Legends, and then I got into, the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then I started, like you said, sort of exploring the sort of online stuff, the communities, the groups, seeing what was out there. And slowly but surely I had a room full of stuff.
Yep.
But you're absolutely right that, like, as an adult now, like, I have a hard day at work or I have a hard whatever, to come and sort of sit at my desk and to, build a Lego set, or unpackage a Mythic Legions, or do a Lazy Boy custom with the Mythic Legions, or now as a father, right, to have my girls in here, who my 2-year-old popped in as a little special guest, to be able to share it with them. Like, I mean, it's just such a release, and it's such a there should be joy in toys, as you're saying. There should be joy in collecting. It should be something that brings you joy and brings you happiness and brings you fun. And yeah, if you're not having fun and if it's not bringing you joy, like
Yeah.
if you're stressing about toys, and
Yeah.
if you're kind of like, I don't know, it's I, when I see people posting like I didn't get a test shot, I'm like, if that's your biggest problem today,
Yeah.
you, I don't think you get it. If that's
Yeah.
what you,
Well, it's like there's this one guy who's in the cabal. I mean, and his son is, I think he's about 10. So his son's in the hospital. Sounds like it's not for anything, minor. He's going to be there for a while. So for the whole 5 days he was there, he took Torgun in
yeah,
with him. So
yeah,
he
I
and his
saw that.
son, he's posting pictures of Torgun all over the place, right? I'm like, yeah, man, like that's what it's about. So yeah,
Creative shots too. I mean, he
yeah,
was
they're
he was
good
he was
shots.
having fun with them.
Yeah, yeah,
He did a live too, and if you guys are in the cabal, go and watch it. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty. It's pretty raw, right? Like, and that's the thing. Like you're saying, like with these groups, like the sort of groups start. Your connection starts on a very superficial level of toys.
yep,
But you absolutely get to a point where there's it's an extended family.
yep,
And I would say with Legions more than any other group that I've ever seen,
yep,
which is largely why I sort of wanted to be more involved. There's just such a strong sense of community and such a strong sense of
yep,
camaraderie, and it's an encouraging community. It's a positive community, and
yep,
even when people get a bit down or get a bit negative, or don't get their test shots or what have you,
yep,
most of the time it's all in good fun when people sort of when people sort of comment or sort of counterpunch the
yeah,
oh, you didn't get a test shot, like, oh well, there's always next time to not get another test shot. And it's all very
collegial.
it,
Yeah,
yeah, it's never like, yeah, you didn't get one because you're a jerk,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it never gets to
And
that point. But
and I gotta like the credit, for almost all that too. It goes to Walter for setting the tone, and Elliot, who is like he's an excellent guy. He really is. He's such a good guy. And but top to bottom, man, like that guy is tireless. Like he's constantly putting out fires there in a very he has a certain way about him that seems to innately diffuse everything, right?
yeah, yeah,
So he's really like a godsend for that. And the coolest part, and this is the thing, like I'm not gonna get into details because it doesn't matter, but like Walter Walter is this guy who's awesome. Like he's a really awesome guy. He's he has this great sort of look on life.
hmm
But I know that from little bits and pieces of information there that Walter has seen some pretty serious stuff in his life. I don't
heard
like
some stories. Yeah, I've heard some
yeah,
stories.
he
Yeah,
talks
yeah,
about it behind it. He'll be like in a in a setting with some people, and he'll sort of let something sort of kind of mention something. Oh yeah, well it's kind of like this, right? And like and people are kind of like
wait, what? Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, but he's a family guy. He's
Uh-huh.
a great dad and all this stuff. But I think that's what makes it more genuine, though, is you have
Yeah,
someone who doesn't need to prove a single thing, right? He doesn't need to prove anything, and he's like, look, we're here to have some fun. Life is a lot of parts of life are not fun. Let's just get to work. So yeah,
yeah. Well, we've definitely overshot an hour.
yeah, always. But that's good.
That's all I got. I mean, we could go on forever, I think. And Greg, it was a pleasure having you on, and I hope that you'll be on more often. where can people sort of see your stuff? What's your Instagram? I mean, obviously, you know, you're in the group and people kind of reach out through that, but what's your Instagram? Where are you on Instagram? Is
Well,
that your kind of oh, you just got TikTok too, didn't you?
I did, yeah, for behind the scenes, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, but thank you for having me on. This is great, and I mean, you know, thank you for that. Thank you for this forum, you know, and everything, and for the community and what, you know, like you and Mike and Ray and all that stuff. Like, you know, you guys, you've hit it out of the park. This is amazing, and I'm more than happy
I'm new,
to.
but we're trying. We're trying.
Yeah, it's so, like, I'm so pleased. I'm so happy that it's there. And yeah, I'm thrilled to come on, you know, whenever you want me, and if I'm there, I'm available. Yeah, absolutely. Would love to. For my socials, yeah, I mean, I'm in the group. My Instagram is Torah Nerd. My TikTok is Torah Pix. The TikTok is recently new. A Lego friend, actually, who his his Lego stuff is blowing up there. He's like, yeah, man, you got to try it. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm not 12. I don't know. Like, you know, like, but so I, you know, anyway, I'm doing it, and I'm just basically sticking with behind the scenes. So if you see my stuff on Instagram, you'll see it there, set to some old guy music. And yeah, so there you go.
Facebook. I know that this is Jay because I knew this about Jay. Jay knew Walter before this Mythic Legions were even around. He's a real solid buddy. Yes,
That's awesome.
some of the stories that I've heard have come from him. Some of the stories I've heard have come from other people.
Yeah.
When you sort of start hearing the same stories kind of from
Yeah.
different people, you go, yeah, it's getting crazy. But
Oh, that's great. It makes me like the guy even more. That's awesome.
and you know what? And it's as the admin or as a new admin in this group, and an admin in a couple other groups, like all the groups that I'm an admin for are you know, tiny compared to the Cabal.
Yeah.
And it blows me away that he's managed to kind of wrangle that many people to sort of have a similar sort of a similar approach to how they interact in that group, which is amazing. And I even commented, you know, a couple days ago and said this to Walter. I said, I can't wait to meet you in person and pick your brain and try to figure out how the heck you did it. But you know, with these videos, with you know, the group, with everything, we're trying to build a Canadian community, trying to get as many people involved, trying to sort of get something going that's uniquely Canadian. That's you know, it's hard with the Cabal being as positive as encouraging. With the GI Joe group, it's easy for me to have a positive, encouraging group because you go, well, yeah, look at those toxic cesspools in the U.S. Like, we're just avoiding that. The Cabal is so great that it's tough. It's tough to try to improve on that. But like I said, if you're in our group and not in the Cabal, by all means join the Cabal. I think both groups complement each other really well. And again, Greg, thank you for joining me for much longer than we sort of agreed to do. Really hope to have you on again soon. Thank you guys all for joining. And if you're watching this after the fact, maybe by the time this gets posted, I will have figured out how to share the link to our YouTube page so that people can watch it there, because apparently views are important. And if you want to like it, I guess that's even better. And if you want to subscribe, maybe that's even better. I don't even know. We're just trying to figure it out, but I'm glad to have you guys all along for the ride. And we will see you again next time. We're trying very hard to do this every Saturday. If we miss one, forgive us. Like I said, well, I think I said this to you, Greg, but I might not have said this. It's my father-in-law's 70th birthday party tonight. I had to kind of duck out a little bit early to do this. It was not universally it was not universally judged to be a good decision, but it is what it is. So on that note, guys, thank you. Have a great evening. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.